Deep down, Yendi, I knew that it wasn't okay. What was happening was not okay. The relationship, the space, the abuse.
What am I longing for? Need your blessing. Anytime you need a lover, call on me. You never find no one in this lifetime to know.
Some stars burn so bright they're impossible to ignore, but others, they burn out just as fast as they rise, like a shooting star streaking across the night sky, brilliant for a moment, and then gone. This is the story of Jamaican reggae artist Jah Cure. A man who had it all: the voice, the talent, the Grammy, the redemption story that the world wanted to believe in. But right now, he's sitting in a prison cell in the Netherlands, serving 6 years for attempted manslaughter. And here's the thing, this isn't even his first time behind bars. What you're about to hear is one of the most devastating cautionary tales in reggae history. A story of talent, triumph, tragedy, and a man who couldn't escape the demons that kept pulling him back into darkness. Let's go back to the beginning, October 11th, 1978. A boy named Jah Cure was born in Hanover, Jamaica, but he wouldn't stay there long. His family moved to Kingston, and that's where the story really starts. Kingston streets weren't kind. They were rough, unforgiving, and dangerous. For a kid growing up in that environment, survival wasn't guaranteed. But there was one thing that kept him going, one thing that gave him hope when everything else felt hopeless: music. Reggae wasn't just entertainment in Kingston, it was survival, it was identity, it was a lifeline. And for young Jah, it became his refuge, the place where he could pour all the pain, all the struggle, all the dreams he carried inside. He started catching the attention of people in the music scene, and eventually, he caught the eye of someone who would change his life forever: Capleton, a reggae legend. And he saw something in this kid, something raw, something special. He took him under his wing, mentored him, and gave him a new name, a name that would one day be known across the world: Jah Cure. Some spell it J-U, some spell it J-A-H, but either way, the name carried weight, it carried meaning, and it was about to carry a legacy. By the time he was 18 years old, Jah Cure was ready to make his mark, and in 1997, he did. He recorded a track called King in This Jungle with another reggae heavyweight, Sizzla. But here's what made it even more significant. It was produced by Beres Hammond. Beres wasn't just any producer. He was a legend in his own right, and he didn't work with just anyone. But he heard something in Jah Cure's voice, something undeniable. So he took him in, became his mentor, and started producing his music. And the reggae community? They were buzzing. People were talking. This young man had a voice that could make you feel every word he sang. Smooth, emotional, powerful. The kind of voice that didn't just perform songs, it told stories. It healed wounds. It moved souls. Things moved fast after that. In 1998, Jah Cure joined Beres Hammond and Harmony House on a European tour.
And this song becomes a perfect extension of my catalog because I learned from Beres Hammond, and anywhere Beres go, him is the.
He was just a teenager, but he was performing on international stages, building a fan base that stretched far beyond Jamaica. People were falling in love with his music, his presence, his energy. Everything was aligning perfectly. The doors were opening. The future looked bright. And then tragedy struck. November 1998, Montego Bay, Jamaica, a routine traffic stop. But nothing about what happened next was routine. Jah Cure was charged with gun possession, robbery, and assault. A woman had come forward identifying him as her attacker. And just like that, the rising star's world came crashing down. This wasn't just another arrest. This became one of the most controversial cases in Jamaica. The reggae community was divided. Fans were outraged. They didn't believe it. Free Jah Cure campaigns started popping up everywhere. Protests, petitions. People were convinced he was being set up, that this was a mistake, that the system was trying to destroy a young black artist on the verge of greatness. But the case moved forward anyway. April 1999. Despite the protests, despite the campaigns, despite the outcry, Jah Cure was convicted. The sentence? 15 years. He was 20 years old. Let that sink in for a moment. 20 years old. An entire career, an entire life derailed in an instant. The music that was supposed to take him to the top, silenced. The tours, the albums, the dreams, all of it gone, or so it seemed. Because here's where where the story takes an unexpected turn. Most artists would disappear behind those prison walls. Their careers would end. Their names would be forgotten. But Jah Cure? He refused to let that happen. The prison had a studio. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He turned his cell into a creative space, and he started recording. While the world moved on outside, while other artists rose and fell, Jah Cure was making music from behind bars. In 2000, he released Free Jah Cure, The Truth. Then came Ghetto Life in 2003. And in 2005, Freedom Blues. Songs like True Reflections, Love Is, and Longing For became global hits. People all over the world were listening to his music, feeling his pain, connecting with his story. And here's the wild part. He became more famous while he was incarcerated than he ever was before his arrest. His voice carried a new weight now. It wasn't just talent anymore. It was survival. It was resilience. It was hope in the face of despair. And people felt that. But even as his music reached millions, questions about his conviction lingered. Media outlets debated the case. Legal irregularities were mentioned, doubts persisted. Was he guilty? Was he innocent? The truth seemed murky, and the more time passed, the more people wondered if justice had truly been served. Still, he remained locked up, year after year, recording, creating, waiting. July 28, 2007. After 8 long years, Jah Cure was released on parole. He left the prison at 5 a.m., avoiding the crowds, slipping out quietly into the early morning darkness. But the reggae community, they were celebrating. Their king had returned. Even the guards vouched for him. They said he was a model prisoner, that he'd changed, that he'd grown, and the world wanted to believe it. They wanted the redemption story. They needed it. In 2008, Jah Cure released True Reflections, A New Beginning. The title said it all. This was his second chance, his fresh start, a symbol of freedom and a new chapter in his life. And then, in 2011, he got married. Camilla McDonald, a TV host, beautiful, successful. They looked perfect together. And in 2012, their daughter, Kalani Bell, was born. From the outside, it looked like the redemption arc everyone had hoped for. The man who had lost everything, who had spent nearly a decade behind bars, was now a husband, a father, a free man making music again. This was it, the comeback, the proof that people could change. And for a while, it really seemed like he had made it. International tours, major success. And then, in 2015, the ultimate validation. His album, The Cure, won the Grammy for Best Reggae Album.
Everybody knows that the last album was nominated this time. The best of me is yet to come.
ABC News covered it. Forbes praised him. The album charted for 17 weeks and peaked at #1.
Look at these things. I said, you know what? I'm going to put some work in and I'm going to make a mixture of fusion music where everywhere in the world, you can hear an element of something that belongs to you.
He produced the entire thing himself and even talked about building his own studio. Jah Cure had gone from a prison cell to the top of the reggae world. He was proof that redemption was possible, that second chances were real, but there was a shadow hanging over everything.
I have to make a step from another level, and if I don't achieve that in this album, that means I'm going back.
His past conviction followed him everywhere. He was disqualified from the MOBO Awards because of it. He couldn't get visas to perform in the United States, the United Kingdom, or Canada. Entire markets were closed off to him. He spoke publicly about it, about how his past had become a barrier he couldn't escape, about how the label of his conviction limited where he could go, what he could do. But he kept pushing forward. He kept making music. He kept performing wherever he was allowed. And his fans, they stayed loyal. They believed in him. But behind closed doors, things were falling apart. The marriage that looked so perfect.
I love my wife, and I'm sure she loves me. We have a beautiful daughter. Whatever happened between me and my wife, it's between us. The world, we just make some people come out of our life and give away a break because everybody have them issues at times. Nobody's perfect.
It was anything but. Years later, Camilla revealed the truth. Physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse.
Represented for me was that there was some deep, dark things happening at that time that I had to cover up.
Their daughter, little Kalani, witnessed the violence. She was so affected by it that she started acting it out at school. Camilla finally left.
I got called in from the principal that day, and that was the day that I said, it's enough. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it on my own, but I can't put her through this anymore.
Not just for herself, but to protect her mental health and her child. The divorce was finalized in 2017.
If I stayed in that situation and accepted that life for whatever reason, then that would now define for her what is normal. That would define for her how a man should treat her.
But the public didn't know the full story yet. Jah Cure kept making music. World Cry, Royal Soldier, Undeniable. He kept touring where he could. He maintained his fan base. On the surface, everything looked fine. October 1st, 2021, Amsterdam, Netherlands. Jah Cure had just wrapped up a 3-month European tour. He should have been celebrating. Instead, there was a problem. A dispute with his promoter, Nicardo Papa Blake. The issue? 5,000 euros in unpaid fees. What happened next was caught on CCTV in broad daylight in Dam Square, one of the busiest public spaces in Amsterdam. Jah Cure stabbed him. Not in some back alley, not in private, in front of everyone. He was arrested immediately. And just like that, the world watched as history repeated itself. The trial came in 2022. The charges were serious. Attempted murder, attempted manslaughter, aggravated assault. Prosecutors were pushing for 8 years. On March 22, 2022, the verdict came down. He was acquitted of attempted murder, but found guilty of attempted manslaughter. The sentence? 6 years. With time served counted. But it didn't end there. The Dutch prosecutors weren't satisfied. They appealed the acquittal on the attempted murder charge. And while that appeal is pending, Jah Cure remains detained. Every 90 days, the court reviews his case and confirms his continued detention. And every 90 days, he stays locked up. It's 2025 now. Jah Cure is still in prison. Terapel, Netherlands. Rumors circulate on social media every few months claiming he's been released. False. Every single time. There's no hearing date set for the appeal. And if the prosecutors win, he could face an even longer sentence. The man who once sang about freedom is once again waiting for it behind bars. Again, in a foreign country, thousands of miles from Jamaica, separated from his daughter, from his family, from the stages where his voice once moved thousands. And you have to wonder, what goes through his mind in that cell? Does he think about the European tour that ended in violence? Does he replay that moment in Dam Square over and over? Does he see the faces of the fans who believed in him, who defended him, who championed his music even when the world wanted to forget him? Or does he think about that day in 2007 when he walked out of a Jamaican prison after 8 years, believing he'd never go back? Does he remember holding his daughter for the first time, standing on stage at the Grammys, the applause, the validation, the proof that he had beaten the odds? All of it gone again. Despite everything, Jah Cure's influence on reggae can't be denied. Songs like Longing For, Love Is, and That Girl are classics. His emotional delivery, his vocal style, they've inspired countless younger artists. Walk into any reggae venue anywhere in the world and you'll hear his music.
Jah Cure is the first artist in the world, to make #1 songs from a prison cell.
His voice still moves people, still makes them feel something deep and real. That gift didn't disappear when he was arrested. The talent is still there. But talent and character, those are two very different things. His music will live on. That's undeniable. Future generations will discover his songs, will feel the emotion in every note, will connect with the pain and beauty he captured so perfectly. But his life? That's a different story. That's the tragedy underneath the triumph. Because Jah Cure proved that you can have all the talent in the world, all the second chances, all the support, and still destroy it all. Let's be real about what happened here. This isn't just about one bad decision. This is about a pattern, a cycle that he couldn't break. The first conviction in 1999, you could argue about the circumstances. You could point to the irregularities, the questions, the Free Jah Cure campaigns. You could say maybe he was young, maybe he made a mistake, maybe the system failed him. But 2021, there's no ambiguity there. There's CCTV footage, witnesses, a public stabbing in one of the most surveilled squares in Europe. This wasn't a he said, she said situation. This wasn't a questionable conviction. This was a man who had everything to lose and lost it anyway. And the saddest part? The people who believed in him the most are the ones who feel the most betrayed? The fans who wore Free Jah Cure t-shirts, the ones who bought his prison albums and made them hits, the ones who celebrated when he won that Grammy, who saw his story as proof that people could change, that redemption was real, that the system could be wrong. They wanted to believe, they needed to believe, and he let them down. There's something else that needs to be said here, something that often gets lost in these conversations about talented artists who self-destruct. Camila, his ex-wife, and his daughter, Kalani. While the world was celebrating Jah Cure's comeback, while critics were praising his albums and fans were packing his shows, a woman and a child were living in fear, experiencing abuse.
Our body gives us little whispers at first, even from a health perspective.
Yes.
And then it gives us little shocks.
Witnessing violence, Kehlani was so traumatized by what she saw that she started acting it out at school. A little girl, mimicking the violence she witnessed at home. That's not just a statistic. That's not just a footnote in his biography. That's a child whose life was shaped by trauma, who will carry those memories, those scars, for the rest of her life. And Camilla had to make the impossible choice to leave, to protect herself and her daughter, to walk away from a marriage that looked perfect from the outside, but was destroying them from the inside. So when we talk about Jah Cure's legacy, we can't just talk about the music. We have to talk about the damage, the hurt, the people whose lives were shattered by his actions, because that's part of the story too. That's part of what makes this so heartbreaking. He wasn't just destroying himself, he was destroying everyone around him. Think about it. He served 8 years in Jamaica. He got out, he rebuilt his entire life, he won a Grammy, he had a family, he had everything to lose. And then he fell right back into violent behavior, right back into a prison cell. His fans are heartbroken, not just because of what he did, but because they've watched him destroy himself twice. But here's what makes this even more complex. We live in a world that loves a comeback story. We celebrate redemption arcs. We want to believe that people can change, that one mistake doesn't define you forever, that transformation is possible. And Jah Cure's first comeback, it fed into that narrative perfectly. The artist who made timeless music from a prison cell, who never gave up, who came out and won a Grammy, who seemed to prove that talent, determination, and faith could overcome anything. Media outlets told his story as inspiration. Young artists looked up to him. He became a symbol of resilience in the reggae community. But what happens when that redemption story falls apart? What happens when the person we celebrated for overcoming their past repeats it? It forces us to ask uncomfortable questions about accountability, about when second chances become third chances, fourth chances, about whether talent should ever excuse behavior, about what we owe to victims versus what we owe to artists. And there are no easy answers. Here's what we know for certain. Jah Cure had opportunities that most people convicted of serious crimes never get. He had a platform. He had fans who loved him. He had mentors like Barris Hammond and Capleton who believed in him. He had the Grammy that validated his talent on the world stage. He had a daughter who needed a father, an ex-wife who needed him to break the cycle, a community that had invested everything into his success, and it still wasn't enough. That's the part that haunts people, because if someone with all those advantages, all that support, all that talent still couldn't escape the pattern of violence, what does that say? What does that mean? Some people will argue he was a victim of his environment, that growing up in Kingston's tough streets damaged him in ways that couldn't be undone, that the prison system, instead of rehabilitating him, just hardened him further, that he never got the mental health support, the therapy, the interventions that could have actually helped him heal. And there's truth to that. Hurt people. Trauma doesn't just disappear because you're talented. Success doesn't automatically fix what's broken inside, but others will say that at some point you have to take responsibility, that being a victim of your circumstances doesn't give you permission to create new victims, that plenty of people come from difficult backgrounds and don't stab someone in broad daylight over money. Both things can be true. The situation can be complicated, and it is. What about Nicardo Blake, the promoter he stabbed? That's another life forever changed. Another person who will carry physical and emotional scars. Another family affected by Jah Cure's inability to control his anger. 5,000 euros. That's what the dispute was over. Money that probably would have been resolved through legal channels, through mediation, through conversation. Instead, it ended in violence, in a stabbing, in another arrest, another trial, another conviction. question, was it worth it? Could anything ever be worth throwing away freedom, career, reputation, everything? Of course not. But in that moment, in that flash of anger, Jah Cure made a choice. And that choice has consequences that will echo for years, decades maybe. Blake had to recover from physical wounds, had to relive the trauma in court, had to watch as the case dragged through appeals, had to see people online still defending Jah Cure, still making excuses, still prioritizing the music over the violence. That's another layer of this tragedy. The way talent can make people overlook harm, the way we sometimes care more about preserving art than protecting people. So here we are. Jah Cure is approaching 47 years old. He's sitting in a prison cell in the Netherlands. And the question everyone keeps asking is this: will he ever break free from the cycle that keeps dragging him back behind prison walls? His life stands as both inspiration and warning, a reminder that talent alone isn't enough, that success doesn't heal trauma, that the demons we carry can follow us no matter how far we run. The reggae star who once sang so beautifully about freedom now longs for it all over again. And this time, the world isn't sure if he deserves another chance.